Hi and welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So this week's video, like so many videos, is not scripted. So it might make sense, it might not, who knows. But anyway, let's get started. I wanted to talk this week about, talking about art. So what I mean is, for example, if you start exhibiting your artwork in real life, so I don't mean putting it onto Instagram or something like that, but actually hanging it on the wall of a gallery or some exhibition space, either as a group show or a solo exhibition, at some point, sooner or later, someone's going to come up to you and say, what does your art mean? What message are you trying to give with your art? Somebody will probably ask you that question. Now, for me, if that happened, say, a year ago, 2 years ago, I probably would have run away and tried to find a corner to hide in, because I had no idea how to answer that question. Absolutely no idea. And I don't think it's just me. I think for a lot of people getting into art, it's difficult to answer that question. And I think part of it is, well, if you type into Google something like how to get started with art, you'll get suggestions, something like these on screen. Maybe not these exact ones, but something along these lines. There's nothing wrong with these suggestions. They're perfectly fine. It's just that they're missing something. They're missing something pretty fundamental. And none of these suggestions will help you to answer the question, why do you make art? Or what does your art mean? These are all questions about how to make art. What should I do? Learn this, learn that, become accustomed to this, figure out these things. And that, I said, that's all good stuff, but it doesn't answer the why. Why do you make art? For me, I found the answer to that after a while through studying art history and looking at sort of art movements. I'm talking about Western art here. Other parts of the world had their own separate art histories. But in Western art, looking at that, there were a number of periods in art history that I really enjoyed and that influenced me. So, as I've mentioned before, Impressionism, well, really from Impressionism through Post-Impressionism right up until sort of the Fauvist period, so sort of 1860-ish, up until the early part of the 20th century. A lot of my favorite artists were active during that period. But that wasn't the only time period that influenced me. There's at least one more that I probably haven't mentioned before here on YouTube or anywhere else. And that was Romanticism. So Romanticism, I guess, was around sort of late 18th and into the early 19th century. So it was before Impressionism came along. Romanticism, as far as the style, there's some influence on my art, but it's also the way they thought about art. So it's what I would call your creative philosophy. And this is like that foundation that I was talking about to your art. These ideas are what will help you to answer the question, why do you make art? Or what does your art mean? So for me, there were certain ideas within Romanticism that resonated with me. So the idea of the individual and the importance of the individual is important to me in art, but also just in life in general. I'm more of an individual person than a group person, which has its pros and cons. I'm not saying this is a perfect philosophy. It's just, this is the one that appeals to me. Romanticism is also the idea of emotion over reason. This is, for me, this is true in art. It's not always true. If I needed surgery, I would prefer a surgeon who puts reason over emotion. But in terms of art, it's the other way around. And there is this, in representational art, there's a relationship between the artist and the subject, and how the artist interprets the subject and tries to portray the subject. In my case, that's usually landscapes, but whatever subject you like to paint. And there is this emotional response to the subject by the artist. And it is, in my opinion, art is sort of that expression of personal feelings towards the subject. And then lastly, this idea of the artist as sort of creator. So there's ideas within Romanticism that resonate with me. So it has been an influence on my art as well. And not just mine, but other art movements as well have been influenced by at least some artists associated with Romanticism. Probably the two artists that I like the most, that are usually associated with this Romanticism, are, on the left you can see a painting by Delacroix, and then on the right by the English artist Turner. Both of these artists probably had at least some influence on modernism and on impressionism. Certainly Delacroix did. Many of the so-called impressionist artists said that they were fans of Delacroix's art, and they learnt a lot from his art style. Matisse, Picasso also were big fans of Delacroix. Turner, well, we know that Claude Monet spent a bit of time in London, in England, during the Franco-Prussian War. And we know that during that period he went to a number of exhibitions because he signed the guest books. And we know that at least some of those exhibitions had paintings by Turner. And if you look at Claude Monet's paintings after the Franco-Prussian War, it's hard to say that there wasn't at least some influence on his art from looking at Turner's art. Although Claude Monet himself said that he was never influenced by Turner. But anyway, it's likely that at least two of these romantic artists, or artists in the Romanticism style, had some influence on modern art and on Impressionism. And on my art as well. So, I say, if somebody asks me the question, what does my art mean? It's partly to do with, I mainly do landscapes, but I'm not trying to recreate a landscape in any sort of naturalistic or accurate, detailed way. The landscapes that I produce are from imagination. They're not real landscapes. They're somewhat romanticized. There's an emotional thing within there as well. I'm sure I'm not the only person who can look at landscapes and there's some sort of connection there. It's not a physical connection. It's just something, it's very calming to look at certain landscapes, coastal landscapes and things. And that's what I'm trying to capture in my art. Whether or not I succeed is up to other people to decide, but that's what I'm going for. And it is also very important to me for artists to be individualists and to express their own feelings towards their subject and to put that emotion as best they can into their own art. So this is why, sort of following on from last week's video, this is why I don't like all these rules, and especially these made-up rules about making art. I think art should be from inside the artist and not have anything to do with some sort of rules that somebody else has made up at some point in the past. Of course, everybody has different styles, and some people do prefer the cold, technical approach to art. It's just not for me. I prefer the more emotional approach to art. So finish off, also one of the recent paintings I've done. Maybe you can see a bit of influence from Impressionism or Romanticism in this painting. I'm not pretending I'm at the same level as artists like Turner, but they certainly do influence the way that I make art. Okay, well, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again in next week's video.